Henry Whitman sat alone in his dimly lit home office, the silence pressing against him like a physical weight. Lucy Whitmore hadn't returned home by midnight again, and the shadows of doubt were beginning to gnaw at the edges of his mind. He recalled the dinner a week ago when she had humiliated him in front of their daughter, Stella, and their close friends. Her laughter, light and deliberate, accompanied Adam Reynolds's jokes, leaving Henry awkwardly sipping his wine, trying to smile through the sting. Even Stella had joined in, repeating Lucy's barbed teasing with that cruel innocence only a child could muster. The memory made Henry's jaw tighten. He had tried to shrug it off, telling himself that Lucy's social life was simply more glamorous, her wit sharper. But deep down, he knew there was more to it. Lucy had always enjoyed the spotlight, attending charity galas, art exhibitions, and social events that seemed endless. Henry had once found it charming, even exciting to support her adventures, but lately it felt like she was deliberately choosing company over him. Her laughter around Adam Reynolds, his easy charm and effortless wit, felt like a mirror showing everything Henry lacked in her eyes. He remembered how, in earlier years, he had indulged her whims, arranged private dinners, and ensured that her life seemed luxurious and flawless. Yet now all those gestures had become invisible, almost irrelevant. The tension between them had escalated over months, subtle at first, then undeniable. Lucy's tone had grown sharp, impatient, cutting him down for his methodical habits and his predictable routines. Success in business could not shield Henry from the sting of rejection at home. Each achievement felt hollow when juxtaposed with the coldness and sarcasm he encountered at the dinner table. Their daughter, Stella, had begun drifting away as well, as, influenced by Lucy, her affection had cooled, replaced by a sense of detachment, mirroring the emotional distance she saw in her mother. Henry had anticipated her brilliance, creating a trust fund for Stella's education, intending to give her a foundation for the future. Yet even that now seemed under threat. Rumors of Lucy's involvement with Adam Reynolds circulated like wildfire. Henry's mind replayed snippets of overheard conversations, social media posts, and the little details that made the heart ache. Adam found Lucy witty, charming, captivating, qualities that Henry had once thought he shared with her. He realized painfully that indulgence had turned into neglect. For years he had bent over backward to satisfy her every desire. Yet all that effort now seemed trivial. Lucy had learned to manipulate, spinning narratives among friends, dismissing Henry as uninteresting, inferior. The final straw had been the dinner party where she had shone around Adam, flaunting what Henry had always cherished as their private connection. At the party, Lucy had taken it further, disclosing to everyone that Henry had gone to bed by 10, painting him as dull, obsessed with spreadsheets, and unworthy of admiration. Stella had joined the ridicule, calling him Daddy, probably up with his spreadsheets. In that moment, Henry recognized the magnitude of his loss. Not wealth, not social standing, but the intimate bond he had hoped to preserve with his family. Determined not to be further humiliated, he retreated to the sanctuary of his office. Opening a folder on his laptop, Henry reviewed months of preparation, legal documents, financial records, trust amendments, all laid out meticulously, ready for action. He had anticipated the eventuality of Lucy seeking another path, and now the time to protect his interests had arrived. Henry's plan was strategic and cold. He moved quickly, adjusting the trust fund for Stella, redefining his own assets, revising powers of attorney, and preparing legal documentation to shield himself from any unilateral actions by Lucy. Each decision was deliberate. Changes to joint accounts, asset restructuring, adjustments to household management, all executed discreetly to prevent premature suspicion. He recognized that Stella's education and future had to remain secure, even if Lucy attempted to challenge his authority. Late one night, Lucy returned, effervescent and oblivious. She spoke animatedly about her evening with Adam, offering an invitation for time together. Henry's expression remained neutral. Inwardly, he calculated every move. The following morning, he met with his lawyer, Douglas, to finalize the prenuptial and postnuptial arrangements. Lucy had already waived claims to certain properties, preserving only her share in their initial home, now sold for the development of the current mansion. Henry ensured that the trust for Stella would only be accessible upon meeting strict academic and behavioral conditions. Any misstep, and the fund would remain locked until she reached 30. The confrontation escalated when Lucy discovered the restructuring. Her bank accounts had been limited, her discretionary funds curtailed, and the trust temporarily frozen. Shocked and incredulous, she confronted Henry, who calmly explained the measures were necessary to curb excessive spending and ensure financial prudence. The emotional sting of betrayal, paired with legal and financial precision, left Lucy floundering. Henry referenced the prenuptial agreement and emphasized that misuse or deception could result in her complete loss of residency in the mansion. Lucy's fury was tempered by fear and realization. Her manipulation, once effective, had been countered with preparation, discipline, and foresight. Henry's resolve was absolute. He had become both shield and arbiter, defending the integrity of his family's wealth and securing Stella's future. The dynamics of their relationship had shifted irrevocably, with Lucy now constrained by boundaries she had once ignored. Henry's actions were not punitive for the sake of revenge alone, but protective, ensuring that no further erosion of trust, affection, or responsibility would occur under his watch. Stella, observing the tension, began understanding the gravity of responsibility and consequence. Her mother's indulgence and Henry's meticulous planning provided a dual lesson in morality, accountability, and foresight. She absorbed the reality that life required more than charm and manipulation. It demanded effort, consistency, and respect for others. As Henry implemented the final stages of his plan, revising accounts, securing trusts, and enforcing the legal framework, he felt a complex mixture of satisfaction and melancholy. There was no joy in Lucy's discomfort, only recognition that he had preserved the future he had labored for, maintaining control and clarity where chaos had threatened. The family structure, fractured as it was, now had defined parameters. Henry had assumed the role of architect of consequence, guiding both Lucy and Stella toward responsibility while safeguarding the family legacy. Henry's decisions reverberated through the coming days. Lucy faced the stark reality of financial independence under tight constraints, forced to navigate responsibilities she had long avoided. Stella, motivated by the lessons unfolding before her, began engaging more seriously with her studies and personal conduct, understanding the relationship between privilege and accountability. The household, once defined by charm, manipulation, and indulgence, was now structured by clarity, discipline, and well-defined expectations. Henry, having anticipated every possibility, reflected on the meticulous planning that had prevented complete collapse. He acknowledged the pain, the humiliation, and the betrayal, but also recognized the necessity of action. His role was not merely punitive, it was protective, strategic, and forward-looking. Lucy's choices had consequences, and Henry's preparation ensured that both Stella and the broader family interests remained secure. In the end, the night settled over the mansion, a quiet but potent symbol of order restored. Henry continued to monitor developments, adjusting strategies where necessary, ever vigilant. The balance of power had shifted, boundaries were firmly established, and lessons in responsibility had begun to take root. For Henry, this was both a personal victory and a crucial act of guardianship, preserving the integrity, wealth, and future of his family against manipulation, indulgence, and carelessness. The following days unfolded with a tense, almost palpable atmosphere in the Whitman mansion. Lucy, for the first time in years, experienced the consequences of her indulgence. Gone were the endless shopping sprees, lavish dinners, and social events that had defined her life. Instead, she was confronted with bills she could no longer pay, schedules she had never kept, and a reality she had long ignored. Henry observed her closely, detached yet alert, noting every hesitation, every misstep, and every moment of frustration. His goal was not revenge for its own sake, but the establishment of accountability, a lesson in responsibility, consequences, and respect for the structures he had maintained all his life. Stella, sensing the shift in their household dynamic, felt both anxiety and cautious hope. The sudden tightening of the trust fund, coupled with her mother's financial discomfort, forced her to confront the realities of money, priorities, and personal effort. She had always relied on her mother's charm and indulgence to smooth over difficulties. But now, those crutches were gone. The prospect of supporting herself through part-time work while meeting her academic responsibilities became immediate and pressing. Lucy tried to comfort Stella, but her own distress often undermined her efforts. Henry, aware of Stella's emerging understanding of responsibility, began to observe her progress quietly, weighing the possibility of continued support based on demonstrated accountability. Lucy, meanwhile, struggled to adapt to her new circumstances. The household, once managed by a cadre of assistants and personal staff, now required her involvement. Tasks she had never performed, paying bills, managing schedules, supervising household maintenance, suddenly became unavoidable. She stumbled through these responsibilities, often frustrated and overwhelmed, realizing for the first time the extent of her dependency on Henry's management. Each mistake became a lesson, though one she was forced to learn through stress rather than guidance. Henry, while meticulous, allowed her some space to manage these challenges herself. He refrained from overt interference, though he remained vigilant. He understood that true responsibility could only be developed through first-hand experience. Lucy's frustration, resentment, and occasional despair were, in his eyes, natural responses to a life she had taken for granted. He documented her progress, noting not only failures but moments of initiative, however small, as these would influence future decisions regarding the trust fund and household privileges. Meanwhile, Lucy's social network began to fracture. Friends who had once flocked to her side now distanced themselves, unsure of how to interact with someone no longer wielding influence and wealth. Invitations dwindled, calls became infrequent, and the flattery that had sustained her self-image evaporated. The absence of social reinforcement exposed her vulnerabilities, leaving her isolated within the very mansion that had once been a stage for her charm and social maneuvering. Stella, observing her mother's humiliation and the subtle authority Henry wielded, internalized a harsh but necessary lesson about maturity and accountability. She began managing her part-time job with seriousness, balancing work hours with academic commitments. Her efforts, though initially clumsy, demonstrated promise. She learned to prioritize tasks, communicate effectively with employers, and accept responsibilities without expectation of indulgence. Lucy, while struggling, began to recognize her daughter's growing independence and the value of discipline instilled by Henry's interventions. Henry's interventions extended beyond household management and financial restructuring. He implemented oversight mechanisms, detailed expense reports, controlled access to accounts, and conditions on all discretionary spending. Lucy and Stella quickly learned that deviation from the rules would result in immediate consequences. The contrast between past indulgence and current restrictions was stark. Lucy, once carefree and commanding, now found herself negotiating with Henry on minor decisions, while Stella navigated the demands of self-sufficiency with increasing competence. Tension escalated when Lucy attempted to sell designer clothing and luxury items online without informing Henry. She hoped to regain some financial freedom, unaware that Henry monitored such activities. Discovery of these sales prompted immediate confrontation. Henry presented evidence, calm but unyielding, emphasizing that any attempt to circumvent the established rules would result in stricter restrictions. Lucy felt trapped, realizing that her cleverness and social acumen were insufficient against Henry's foresight and methodical planning. Stella, witnessing her mother's predicament, understood the necessity of transparency and adherence to the new structure. Amid these challenges, Lucy attempted to rebuild a semblance of normalcy. She and Stella reorganized the household, attempted to cook meals, and engaged in routine activities previously handled by staff. Mistakes were frequent, often resulting in humorous but humbling moments. Henry observed quietly, offering acknowledgement where deserved, but withholding praise for mere effort. Over time, both women began to adjust, recognizing that competence, diligence, and integrity were more valuable than charm, influence, or privilege. Financial constraints forced Lucy to explore alternative income sources. She revisited the idea of her boutique, which had lain dormant for years. With Henry's cautious support, she began planning a small-scale venture, utilizing limited funds while adhering to strict accountability measures. Her focus shifted from indulgent luxury to practical entrepreneurship. Stella contributed ideas and labor, integrating the lessons of responsibility she had learned under her father's supervision. The boutique, modest at first, became a laboratory for growth, requiring ingenuity, planning, and consistent effort. Henry's oversight of the boutique was careful, but non-intrusive. He reviewed budgets, monitored expenditures, and assessed progress, providing guidance only when necessary. Lucy, initially frustrated by the oversight, gradually recognized its value. Mistakes became opportunities for learning, rather than mere evidence of failure. The slow, incremental progress in the boutique mirrored the lessons being absorbed in household management, personal responsibility, and financial prudence. The relationship between Lucy and Stella evolved as well. The shared challenges fostered a degree of collaboration and understanding. Stella, once reliant on privilege, now contributed actively to family survival and business operations. Lucy, humbled by her circumstances, acknowledged her own failings and began mentoring her daughter in practical skills, emotional resilience, and entrepreneurial discipline. This emerging partnership, forged under duress, laid the foundation for a new, albeit different, family dynamic. Despite progress, the shadow of past indiscretions lingered. Lucy's prior social life, casual disregard for household obligations, and flirtations with Adam Reynolds remained points of tension. Henry's vigilance ensured that these behaviors could not recur unchecked. Lucy's acknowledgement of her past mistakes, coupled with tangible demonstrations of responsibility, gradually earned cautious trust. Yet the process was deliberate, measured, and fraught with reminders of consequences, a constant underlying tension shaping daily interactions. Social perceptions also shifted. Lucy's former friends regarded her differently, and Stella faced challenges among peers due to her family's visible restructuring. Both women confronted judgment, scrutiny, and occasional pity. Yet, within the family unit, these external pressures reinforced internal growth. Stella, in particular, learned resilience and independence, while Lucy discovered the limits of charm and the necessity of strategic planning, effort, and ethical conduct. Henry, observing from a distance, maintained control without overt interference, allowing natural consequences to guide behavior. His calculated actions ensured protection of the family's wealth and legacy, while instilling lessons of responsibility, discipline, and accountability. Both Lucy and Stella internalized these lessons, experiencing firsthand the value of transparency, effort, and respect for structured systems. The mansion, once a theater of indulgence, became a setting for education, adaptation, and the slow re-establishment of balance within the family. As weeks passed, the boutique gained modest traction. Lucy and Stella coordinated inventory, pricing, and marketing, navigating setbacks with increasing competence. Henry reviewed the financial statements, impressed by incremental progress, though remaining vigilant against complacency or deception. The dynamic shifted subtly. Lucy acknowledged her dependence on structure and oversight, while Stella embraced responsibility with growing confidence. Their efforts began to produce tangible results, marking a turning point in their personal growth and family cohesion. Lucy, in private moments, reflected on her previous arrogance, the ease with which she had manipulated others, and the price of her indulgence. Recognition of mistakes, coupled with active effort to rectify them, fostered a newfound sense of humility. Stella, observing her mother's efforts, gained perspective on maturity, perseverance, and accountability. The tension between past privileges and current responsibilities became a defining lesson, shaping their approach to family, business, and personal conduct. Henry, witnessing these developments, remained measured, emphasizing structure over sentiment. He understood the delicate balance between support and strict oversight. Rewards were conditional, trust required demonstration, and failure entailed consequences. Lucy and Stella gradually internalized these principles, experiencing the complex interplay of autonomy, accountability, and guidance. The household transformed from a space of indulgence to one of structured growth, discipline, and emerging competence. The months that followed solidified these changes. Lucy's boutique began to sustain itself financially, albeit modestly. Stella's academic performance improved, her part-time work fostering maturity and self-reliance. The family's interactions, while still tinged with tension from past betrayals, reflected cautious cooperation, acknowledgement of mistakes, and emerging respect. Henry's foresight and careful planning had created an environment where responsibility was no longer optional, and consequences were tangible. Within this evolving structure, Lucy learned to navigate financial constraints, social expectations, and household management. Stella embraced responsibility, developing skills and habits that would serve her beyond her academic years. Henry's role as architect of consequence ensured that lessons were internalized, values reinforced, and the family's legacy preserved. The experience forged resilience, adaptability, and clarity of purpose, shaping both mother and daughter as they stepped into a new chapter of accountability and growth. As the boutique began to take shape, Lucy found herself navigating the delicate balance between entrepreneurship and accountability. The shop, modest in size and scope, demanded her full attention, yet Henry's watchful eyes never strayed far. Every purchase order, marketing decision, and customer interaction had to meet standards he would approve of. Initially, Lucy bristled at the scrutiny, remembering the years she had wielded influence effortlessly, commanding attention with charm rather than competence. But slowly, she began to see the value of structure, planning, and foresight, lessons she had previously dismissed. Stella, now juggling her part-time job, coursework, and boutique responsibilities, discovered an unexpected sense of independence. For the first time, she realized that effort and accountability directly impacted her opportunities. She learned to manage her finances, communicate with employers professionally, and prioritize responsibilities over leisure. The trust fund, though blocked, became a motivational tool rather than a cushion, driving her to demonstrate discipline and integrity. Stella's confidence grew with each accomplishment, even as she felt the weight of her mother's inexperience and occasional frustration. Lucy, meanwhile, faced constant reminders of her previous arrogance. The boutique's slow start forced her to confront the realities of market competition, financial constraints, and operational oversight. Early mistakes, mispriced inventory, poorly timed promotions, and inventory mismanagement tested her resilience. Yet each failure, while humbling, also served as a lesson. She began to understand the difference between superficial charm and genuine competence. Her interactions with customers became more deliberate, her decisions more thoughtful, and her daily routine more disciplined. Henry, observing from a distance, maintained an unwavering approach. He praised measurable progress, but withheld approval for minimal effort. Lucy and Stella learned that recognition was earned, not assumed, and that every misstep had consequences. This dynamic created tension, yet it also fostered growth. Lucy's attempts to circumvent rules, whether through impulsive purchases or secret dealings, were promptly addressed, reinforcing the lesson that autonomy without responsibility was dangerous. The boutique, though small, became a laboratory for Lucy and Stella's collaboration. Stella handled social media, photography, and customer engagement, while Lucy managed purchasing, inventory, and business strategy. Their teamwork revealed both strengths and weaknesses. Stella's energy and creativity complemented Lucy's strategic thinking, yet her mother's emotional volatility occasionally disrupted operations. Disagreements were frequent, often reflecting deeper frustrations stemming from past indulgence, resentment toward Henry, and the pressures of financial survival. Henry's involvement remained subtle, yet impactful. He monitored financial statements, tracked inventory turnover, and reviewed operational decisions without overt interference. His role was less that of a micromanager and more of a silent architect, shaping the family's growth through expectations, accountability, and conditional support. Lucy's realization that her autonomy was bounded by these conditions initially sparked resentment. But gradually, she began to appreciate the structure as a safeguard against repeated mistakes. Stella, increasingly aware of her mother's vulnerabilities, assumed a leadership role in the boutique's daily operations. She learned to mediate conflicts, manage schedules, and maintain focus during periods of stress. Her academic discipline and work ethic became assets in the business environment, fostering early maturity. Henry, observing her progress, recognized the emergence of responsibility and independence, qualities he had sought to instill all along. Despite progress, tension persisted. Lucy occasionally confronted feelings of inadequacy and embarrassment, particularly when reminded of her previous social dominance and ease of life. Invitations from old friends had stopped arriving, social media interactions were sparse, and the comparison between past luxury and present restraint weighed heavily on her. Stella, while focused on practicalities, sometimes shared her mother's sense of frustration, especially when navigating peers who remained unaware of their financial restructuring. The boutique itself faced challenges beyond personal dynamics. Rent negotiations, supplier reliability, and marketing visibility tested Lucy's resolve. Henry's guidance, though subtle, provided a framework for addressing these obstacles strategically. Lucy began to develop skills in negotiation, crisis management, and customer relations, areas previously foreign to her. Each small success reinforced confidence, while failures served as reminders of past dependence and the importance of vigilance. One of the most critical lessons for both mother and daughter was accountability. Stella learned that dishonesty or evasion would jeopardize not only her financial support, but also her future opportunities. Lucy discovered that reliance on charm or manipulation could no longer solve problems. Tangible results, effort, and adherence to agreed-upon rules were essential. The boutique became a tangible measure of competence, discipline, and integrity, reflecting their growth under Henry's conditional oversight. Henry's approach remained consistent. He observed quietly, interjected only when necessary, and set clear parameters for acceptable behavior. Lucy and Stella learned to communicate openly, document progress, and manage resources responsibly. While the lessons were hard-earned, the family slowly adapted to a new equilibrium, one where trust, effort, and accountability defined success rather than entitlement, charm, or convenience. Interactions outside the household also reflected change. Stella faced scrutiny at her part-time job as colleagues and managers questioned her motives, unaware of her family's restructured finances. Lucy assisted her in navigating these challenges, emphasizing honesty, professionalism, and diligence. Social perceptions, once shaped by wealth and privilege, now required demonstration of competence and character. Both mother and daughter confronted judgment with growing resilience, understanding that respect must be earned rather than assumed. As the boutique gradually stabilized, Lucy's confidence began to rebuild. She implemented small improvements, refined marketing strategies, and streamlined inventory management. Stella's contributions enhanced efficiency, and together they began to see tangible results. Henry, while approving, remained attentive to patterns, noting that success must be sustainable and grounded in consistent effort rather than fleeting enthusiasm. Amid these developments, Lucy reflected on her previous life. Moments of pride now stemmed from tangible accomplishments rather than social dominance or extravagance. She developed empathy for Stella's struggles and recognized the value of discipline, responsibility, and structured support. Stella, in turn, learned the power of resilience, perseverance, and accountability, skills that would shape her future beyond the boutique or family dynamics. The months that followed solidified these transformations. The boutique reached a stable financial footing, Stella excelled academically while maintaining her part-time job, and Lucy's leadership and operational skills improved markedly. Henry's interventions, once seen as punitive, were now understood as necessary scaffolding for growth, ensuring that lessons were internalized and responsibility became second nature. In private, Lucy occasionally reflected on Henry's unyielding approach. Though initially resented, it became clear that his strategy had reshaped their family dynamic, instilling values long ignored. Stella's maturation and the boutique's survival were tangible proof of progress. While past indulgences and errors could not be erased, the deliberate effort to adapt, work hard, and embrace accountability provided a path forward, a second chance defined, not by wealth or influence, but by competence, discipline, and integrity. Through this prolonged period of adjustment, Lucy and Stella both realized that survival and success required more than charm or privilege. They discovered the significance of strategic thinking, resilience under pressure, and ethical conduct. The boutique became a microcosm of their learning. Every sale, every customer interaction, every operational decision reflected lessons in diligence, responsibility, and consequence. Ultimately, Henry's careful oversight created an environment where growth was inevitable. Lucy learned humility and self-reliance. Stella embraced responsibility and maturity. And the family unit, though transformed, began to function on a foundation of accountability and effort. The boutique's modest success symbolized not just financial recovery, but the broader evolution of values, relationships, and personal development. A testament to the high price of past betrayals and the rewards of deliberate, measured change. As the boutique stabilized, Lucy began to experience a newfound sense of purpose, no longer defined by the luxuries she once took for granted. Her life was now structured around tangible goals, disciplined routines, and meaningful work. Each day presented challenges, but also small victories: a successful sale, a satisfied customer, or an improved marketing campaign. These accomplishments, though modest, carried immense weight. They were earned through effort rather than entitlement. Stella, thriving in her academic and work responsibilities, became increasingly independent. The responsibilities she once resented gradually shaped her into a disciplined, self-reliant young woman. She managed her schedule meticulously, balanced coursework with part-time employment, and maintained the boutique's online presence. More than that, she internalized the lessons her father had tried to teach: that discipline, responsibility, and honesty were more valuable than wealth or privilege. Lucy and Stella's relationship, once strained by reliance, indulgence, and miscommunication, began to transform. Working side by side in the boutique created moments of collaboration and mutual understanding. They learned to communicate more openly, to respect each other's opinions, and to handle disagreements constructively. Though tension occasionally flared, particularly when old habits or frustrations resurfaced, the overarching dynamic was one of growth and support. The shared challenges became a unifying force, cementing their partnership in a way that had previously seemed impossible. Henry, observing from a distance, maintained his vigilant yet measured approach. He monitored their progress, offered guidance when necessary, and intervened only to enforce accountability. His quiet oversight served as both a safety net and a motivational framework. Lucy, initially resistant to his supervision, gradually came to appreciate the stability it provided. She realized that Henry's insistence on rules, transparency, and financial responsibility was not cruelty, but a mechanism for ensuring long-term success and personal growth. The boutique itself flourished in subtle but meaningful ways. Lucy, applying the lessons of diligence, planning, and strategic thinking, managed inventory efficiently and cultivated relationships with loyal customers. Stella's energy and creativity enhanced the shop's online presence, drawing attention from new buyers and expanding their modest customer base. Together, they learned to navigate the intricacies of running a business, from cash flow management to supplier negotiations. The boutique became more than a source of income. It became a symbol of resilience, adaptation, and earned achievement. Challenges continued to test their resolve. Occasionally, financial shortfalls, customer complaints, or inventory mishaps threatened to derail their progress. Yet each setback was met with determination, collaboration, and problem-solving. Lucy's growing competence, combined with Stella's organizational skills and initiative, enabled them to overcome obstacles that would have previously seemed insurmountable. With each challenge, their confidence strengthened, and their capacity for independent decision-making expanded. Meanwhile, Henry maintained a careful distance, offering praise for progress while withholding approval for mediocrity. This approach reinforced accountability. Rewards were contingent on consistent effort, not superficial gestures. Lucy and Stella came to understand that respect and trust were earned incrementally, and that their father's oversight was a framework designed to shape sustainable success rather than immediate gratification. Socially, the transformation was striking. Lucy no longer relied on charm or social connections for influence. Instead, she built credibility through competence, professionalism, and reliability. Stella similarly earned recognition among peers and colleagues by demonstrating diligence and maturity. The family's reputation shifted from one of privilege and indulgence to one of hard-earned accomplishment and responsible stewardship. Gradually, small reconciliations occurred. Lucy expressed genuine gratitude to Henry for the guidance and structure that had forced change, acknowledging her previous arrogance and misjudgments. Stella, in turn, recognized the value of her father's principles, appreciating the lessons in discipline and accountability. Though past betrayals could not be erased, acknowledgement and constructive behavior fostered a tentative sense of restoration within the family dynamic. Lucy's boutique began to expand its reach, leveraging social media and online platforms to supplement foot traffic. With modest profits reinvested into the business, she explored creative marketing strategies, seasonal collections, and partnerships with local artisans. Each success reinforced her independence, skill, and resilience. Stella's academic achievements continued to progress, securing her a stronger position for future scholarships and opportunities. Henry, witnessing this progress, began to adjust his level of oversight. While vigilance remained, he allowed greater autonomy, testing Lucy and Stella's capacity to sustain responsibility independently. Their successes affirmed that the lessons learned, the necessity of discipline, accountability, and measured effort, had taken root. The family, though transformed and restructured, began to operate on a foundation of earned respect and trust. The turning point came during a quiet evening at the boutique. Lucy reflected on the journey, the financial losses, the initial humiliation, the sleepless nights, and the hard work required to rebuild. She realized that the hardships had forged resilience, self-awareness, and a deeper appreciation for personal responsibility. Stella, assisting with inventory and customer service, echoed this sentiment, acknowledging the growth and maturity she had gained through discipline and accountability. By the time the boutique stabilized and Stella regained confidence in her academic pursuits, the family had established a new equilibrium. They no longer functioned under the illusions of entitlement or unearned privilege. Lucy and Stella's progress reflected the high price of past mistakes, but also the profound rewards of personal growth, discipline, and accountability. Henry's interventions, once resented, were now understood as critical for fostering these outcomes. The final months chronicled their emergence into stability. Lucy's boutique achieved a steady flow of business. Stella excelled academically while balancing work, and both mother and daughter embraced the principles of responsibility and honesty. Henry's oversight remained, but it evolved into a supportive framework rather than a restrictive mandate. Trust, once fractured by betrayal and indulgence, was cautiously rebuilt through consistent effort, transparency, and earned respect. The story concluded not with extravagant triumphs, but with meaningful transformation. Lucy learned humility, discipline, and the importance of sustainable effort. Stella discovered independence, accountability, and the rewards of perseverance. Henry's structured guidance reinforced the necessity of integrity, transparency, and responsibility. Together, the family reached a fragile yet functional equilibrium, a testament to the high cost of betrayal, the potential for redemption, and the enduring value of earned respect. In the end, the boutique stood as a symbol of rebirth, the family as a testament to resilience, and the lessons learned as enduring truths. Growth is often forged through adversity. Respect is earned through effort. And true independence is measured not by wealth, but by responsibility and integrity. Lucy and Stella, once reliant on charm and entitlement, had discovered the transformative power of discipline, accountability, and second chances. A narrative that underscored that the price of betrayal can be high, but the rewards of redemption, learning, and perseverance are immeasurable.